This is the Momentum Podcast.
I had a conversation today that for weeks now, I keep having the same conversation. Not every conversation I have, but I've had this conversation over and over again with experienced older entrepreneurs who are stuck. It's not like they're not making money. It's not like they're doing well or not doing well, but they feel stuck. And there's this condition that I see with older entrepreneurs that I see over and over again. And I wanted to jump on and share it and maybe help you or somebody you know get unstuck, get out of a plateau, get back into momentum and get things moving forward.
I'm Alex Sharfin, and this is the Momentum Podcast, made for empire builders, game changers, trailblazers, shot takers, record breakers, world makers, and creators of all kinds. Those among us who can't turn it off and don't know why anyone would want to. We challenge complacency, destroy apathy, and we are obsessed with creating momentum so we can roll over bureaucracy and make our greatest contribution. Sure, we pay attention to their rules, but only so that we can bend them, break them, then rewrite them around our own will. We don't accept our destiny, we define it. We don't understand defeat because you only lose if you stop, and we don't know how. While the rest of the world strives for average and clings desperately to the status quo, we are the minority, the few, who are willing to hallucinate there could be a better future. And instead of just daydreaming of what could be, we endure the vulnerability and exposure it takes to make it real. We are the evolutionary hunters, clearly the most important people in the world, because entrepreneurs are the only source of consistent, positive human evolution, and we always will be.
So here's the conversation that I had earlier today was with a friend of mine who has who's experienced and who knows a lot of stuff, who can do a lot of different things as an entrepreneur, and he's stuck. He's plateaued. His business it's not doing what he wants it to do. And what we were talking about was how does he get back into momentum? How does he get back into excitement? How does he get back into doing what he wants to do? Because when you are an experienced entrepreneur and you're plateaued or stuck, it feels like you're dying. Do you know what I'm talking about? You know, if you're stuck, if you're out of momentum, here's what it feels like. It feels like everything in your life got harder. And I could hear that in our conversation. He was talking about how, you know, the business wasn't where he wanted it to be. And he didn't have a lot of clarity there, but it was also really stressful in his personal life, and it's stressful with his kids and his wife, and everything feels heavy. When we as entrepreneurs are out of momentum, the entire world gets more difficult to navigate. When we are in momentum and the world is following in our wake and we're making things happen, because we have this optimistic orientation towards the world, everything gets easier. And so for us as entrepreneurs, the key to making sure we are getting what we want out of our lives, that we're doing what we want in our lives, is to get into momentum and stay there. And so that's the conversation that I had with my friend today. And I would be using his name, but I didn't ask his permission. I don't want to give a bunch of personal stuff up, but in the conversation, going through how he doesn't really know what he wants to do in his business. And we talked about a bunch of different options, but he kind of is in between opportunity overwhelm and a lack of clarity. And then he talked a little bit about his relationship, and he and his wife don't have a lot of clarity as like even up to and including where they want to live. And then he talked about what, you know, what he's doing with himself and how he's feeling, and he's feeling constrained and stuck, and just in the conversation, everything felt heavy. So here's what I asked him. I said, you know, in anywhere in your life right now, in the business, in your personal life, with your wife, do you have clear outcomes that you're excited about? And he kind of looked at me, and he looked down, and he looked back at the screen, and he said, no, there is no clear outcomes I'm excited about. And here's what happens to us as entrepreneurs when we don't have a clear outcome we're excited about. This is what I explained to him. As entrepreneurs, we are that small percentage of the population that get up every morning, we go into the future, we create a new reality, and we come back to the present, and we do whatever it takes to demand it becomes real. If we're excited about that new reality, everything in the present becomes easier. It's just who we are. Well, here's the challenge for us as entrepreneurs. If we get up in the morning and we go into the future and it's fuzzy, we come back to the present and we feel constrained and frustrated and agitated. We feel this restless agitation. And here are the symptoms of restless agitation. We start procrastinating. We're not really doing everything we think we should do. We start dabbling in a whole bunch of different stuff. Like if you are a more experienced entrepreneur, and really any entrepreneur, but I've seen this primarily with more experienced entrepreneurs, you start dabbling, you start doing too many different things, and definitely he's doing that. And we kind of get up every day, and here's the issue with us. When we're out of momentum, when we're not in that place where we're really compelled about the future, we get up every day and we're just not excited. We don't have that optimistic orientation that we need towards the world so that we can put up with everything that it takes to be an entrepreneur. Now, on the contrary, like the other side of this coin is when, as an entrepreneur, you get up and you go into the future and it is compelling and it's exciting and it's the change you want to see in the world. You come back to the present, and here's what I know about working with entrepreneurs for over 20 years. Everything feels possible. Everything feels possible. Not only does it feel possible, in a lot of ways, everything feels easier. It feels easier to navigate. It feels easier to understand. We see the optimism in what we're doing, and we're excited about it. And here's the condition that I think happens to older entrepreneurs. As we get older and more experienced, we put far too much weight on where we are going in the future. We start thinking like, I need to figure out what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I need to figure out how I'm going to make the impact in the world that I want. I need to figure out how I'm going to get everything I want. I'm going to need to figure out how I'm going to be excited and how I'm happy and how all this other stuff is happening. And as a result, we put so much pressure on that future we're creating. We have a hard time committing to anything and to creating that future because we make it so pressure filled. So I want to help you take a step back and get back into momentum. If we think about any period in our lives when we were in momentum, here's what I know you had: a hyper clear outcome. And I'll share one of them with you. So for me, when I was in my 20s, when I first started my first real business and I started getting some really huge clients, I was in a period of massive momentum. It was incredibly exciting. And the whole world felt exciting and energizing. And I remember back then, and at the beginning, what happened when I was about 21 years old is I got a contract through another company. I started working with Fuji Media, one of the biggest multinational companies in the world. So first I worked with Fuji, then SanDisk, then another division of Fuji. It was incredible. And I had all of this opportunity coming towards me. I had clear outcomes. I wanted to make sure, and here was my clear outcome. I wanted to make sure I didn't lose those contracts. The beginning of my business career was like, dude, do not screw this up. And here's what happened. Do not screw this up turned into me creating a business that at one point was responsible for over $250 million in sales for other companies, to creating a business where in my 20s I made millions of dollars, creating a business where I became well known in my category. I had one of the most successful companies in my category in Florida. There was a lot of reasons why it was challenging, but you know, this was a lot of wins at a very young age. And here's what's interesting. My goal was don't screw up the contract. What ended up happening was I learned how to build a business. I learned how to navigate relationships. I learned how to get really good contracts. I learned how to keep them for a long time. I learned confidence in myself that I was much more capable than I thought I was. All of that came out of the thought, don't screw it up. So my outcome was clear. I didn't want to screw it up, but look at all the benefits that I got from it. Here's why. I had a clear outcome. I understood where I was going. I knew what I needed to do. So I was in momentum. And when you're in momentum, all the decision making in life gets easier. When you're in momentum, navigating just about anything gets easier. When you're in momentum, you learn at an accelerated rate every single day. When you're in momentum, you see opportunity you normally wouldn't see. And so here's why entrepreneurs, especially more experienced ones, stay profoundly stuck. We don't commit to anything. We stay in that place of dabbling and choosing and opportunity overwhelm. Well, here, I want to take some pressure off of this decision for you. If you go back through your entire life and you think of every period of momentum you've been in, here's something that I think you might see. I've done this exercise with thousands of entrepreneurs. We call it the momentum equation. And in fact, I'll go find the momentum equation podcast and I'll drop it in the comments here if you want to check it out. Because here's what I know about us as entrepreneurs. If you look at any period of momentum in your life, what started it, the decision that got you into momentum, was probably a humble one. For me, it was don't screw up the contract. And out of don't screw up the contract, I totally changed my life because I was in momentum. We change our lives. We learn more. We do more. We become more when we're in that place of momentum. And so it takes three things: a clear outcome, clear measurement, and you have to understand what you're doing, and you will be right back in momentum. And here's the challenge for so many experienced entrepreneurs. We won't commit to that first part, that clear outcome. And so here's a suggestion, maybe a thought for anyone who is more experienced, or any entrepreneur, but isn't in momentum or feels like you've plateaued or you don't feel like you're growing. Figure out an outcome that excites you for just right now. Figure out an outcome that is interesting to you for just right now. It doesn't have to be the end all beat all. It doesn't have to be the thing that's going to be at the end of your life. It doesn't have to be what you're going to leave behind on this planet. Figure out anything, get into momentum, and those other things are going to come to you. Don't stay in the place of indecision. Don't stay in the place of dabbling. Don't stay in the place of non-commitment, because for us as entrepreneurs, when we're in the place of non-commitment, momentum leaves the building. When we're in a place of excitement and commitment, momentum changes everything. I hope this was valuable to you. If you know anyone who should hear this, please tag them for me. And if this was interesting or valuable for you, I would love for you to share it. Thanks for being here with me today.